When I was 13, I was sparring with this bigger boy and I end up curled up against the ropes and I start crying my eyes out. Now, you probably wouldn't expect this from me considering I fought in the Olympic Games, but no matter who you are, these sort of things might happen when you spar the wrong way. And the fix, well, it isn't being brave or to try and hype yourself up to motivate yourself. The fix is changing what you're actually doing during your session. So your mind stops registering the spar as a danger and instead you start enjoying it. And I'm going to show you exactly what you can do before, during and after each sparring session to make sure you're loving sparring, and as well, which is even more important than loving it, is you're getting the most out of each session to help you get better. Now, before I get into the fine details of that, it's important that you understand what I was talking about at the beginning of this video and exactly what happened. So when I was about 13, I got hurt in sparring. I was training in my old amateur boxing gym, and of course, with all fight gyms, I had to spar. But there was one time in particular that I remember I got paired with a guy who was a few years older than me, who was much bigger, he was much stronger, much more experienced, which ultimately made him better than me. And this lad who I was sparring with, he used to always go light on us younger lads because he knew he was bigger and he knew he had that experience. But when we started sparring and I was moving around, I hit him with a strong and pretty clean punch that went straight through his gloves and landed straight on his face. Well, that was it. He didn't like it. The older kid snapped. He got frustrated, and it was then when he started putting his weight behind his punches. He hit me so hard, so many times, that I just ended up on the ropes, curling up like this. And then when he stepped away, I'd start crying. Straight away, my coach stepped in. He stopped the spar. He looked at me. He told me, get out of the ring, and he brought the next kid in to do the spar. And that was it. I was so embarrassed at the time because that's the last thing you want, right? Even though I was a kid, you don't want to cry in sparring. You don't want to act as if you're a coward. But right there, I quit on the ropes because I was getting beat up and getting hurt. Now, the problem that I experienced there is the same reason that so many people don't like sparring. Not because you're curling up on the ropes crying like I did, but sometimes the person in front of you is trying to take your head off. Or if they have more experience than you, sometimes you'll be afraid to try and land a good solid punch because you know if you land a good punch, they won't let you get away with that. They're going to come back and start trying to blast you and punch you much harder. But right now, when it comes to the mental side of sparring and when you're afraid of being in there, I want you to think about a horror movie. If you're watching this for the second time, you know the first time you jump out of your skin every time something scary happens, right? But the second time you watch it, it might be a little bit scary, but not as scary. Then the third time, you know, you've got no fear at all. And that is because you kind of know what to expect. Now, I know sparring is different because every sparring session is different, but what I'm trying to say is the more experience you get in the ring, the better you're going to become at sparring. And I want you to use that same idea before you spar. Now, for an example, let's just say you've got a sparring session on Friday and you've been dreading it all week. Well, that same day on the drive to your gym, what I want you to do is a visualization technique of the sparring. Just close your eyes and walk through the whole sparring session in your head. No. Stop the car, pull the car over to the side of the road, then close your eyes and then do this. Don't be driving down the motorway with your eyes closed. Oh my God, what am I talking about? Yeah, don't do that. Pull over the side of the road before your sparring session, and I want you to think about the visualization in your head. I want you to walk through the sparring session before you actually get in the ring to spar. Now, what this does, this takes the fear away, or at least drops the fear of the unknown, because what you're doing right now is you're mentally sparring. And then when you've done this, you're not going in the ring blind, you have already done it in your head. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I get into what you should be doing in the ring is something that I've seen loads of times. There's always that one guy who can do like 10 rounds on their heavy bag all day long, just blasting it. But put him in the ring to spar, and he's absolutely goosed by the second round. And you might feel this too. On the bag, you look like $1 million and you feel like a champion, but as soon as you step in that ring, all that fitness goes out the window. But why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. You know you're about to spar and you will get a little bit nervous. Your heart rate will elevate straight away the thought of sparring. And when your heart rate elevates, you're burning energy before you've even got into the ring. Now, the trick here to get over that is to be aware of your breathing before you actually spar. You want to bring that heart rate down to a calm level before we even step into the ring. Because if you think about this, you're nervous, your heart rate's elevated, you're in the ring, before you even start, that heart rate is at 140 beats a minute. You haven't got much further to go before you're exhausted. Now with this, I don't want to give the impression where you're just going to sit down and meditate and just totally cool down. No, you're not going to do nothing like that. All I want you to do is be aware of that breathing and continue breathing like that and getting that heart rate down, saving energy for the actual rounds, because as you know, you're going to need it. So it helps us in more ways than one. So now we know how to calm ourselves down and prepare for the session, but now the problem is what happens when we're actually in the ring? Because you might feel like you're getting beat up every single time, even though you're looking great on the bag, in shadow boxing, maybe on the mitts. But when you get in that ring, it seems to go out the window. And I've seen this so many times. And it's because most people are sparring the wrong way. Now, when I was sparring with WBC World Super Middleweight undefeated champion, Froch, who is a very tough, powerful fighter, strong as they come, iron jaw, the kind of guy who trains as hard as possible. Now I'm about to spar with him. So as you can imagine, I'm getting very nervous. I'm putting my gloves on, and before we got into the ring to spar, he came over to me and he checked my gloves, making sure that there were 16-ounce gloves. And he said, "You understand, this is not a fight, right? This is a spar. Let's just take it nice and easy and work on our technique." And I couldn't believe it. Mate, I'd never heard this in all of my years of sparring before. In front of me was the best super middleweight fighter in the world, who was as tough as they come. And he was telling me, we're in here to learn. We're not going to go daft and throw hard punches. And I was like, wow, because up until then I thought speaking to a sparring partner like that is something that makes you sound weak. But what he was doing was setting boundaries, keeping things safe. And that right there does not make you a coward. It's actually the smart thing to do to make sure you get the most out of your sparring session. That being said, our sparring session that day didn't go the distance because he hit me with a right hand and one of my cuts opened up again and we had to stop the spar after just 4 or 5 rounds. And that was going light as well. So imagine what would have happened if he was going full force. I don't want to think about it. Now, with these boundaries that Carl was making, wasn't making us soft. They keep you going to the gym for longer and actually learning and getting better without getting seriously hurt. And I've seen it. Newer, inexperienced fighters, they hype themselves up and they think that a sparring is a fight and they're going to have a war, and they leave the gym with a bloody nose, maybe some concussion, a headache, and that is just going to ruin you, not just only for that session, but for the long term as well. That's why when you spar in regular training, you want to be doing technical sparring. This is the best sort of training you can do. That means the goal is to learn with real scenarios without hurting each other. And there's so many different mental things that you can do, not only to prepare for your session, but when you're in the ring, what's going to help you with them. And I've created the Sparring Academy. This is a program that's stacked with everything that I know about sparring, no matter what level you're at, so you can get the most out of it. So if you're sparring and you truly want to level up to make you the best version of yourself and to save you years of trial and error with sparring, you can learn all of the knowledge that I've got from up here, from being an Olympic medalist, a European champion, undefeated professional. All of them details, you can get them if you scan here or go to boxingfitness.com/sparring. The link is below this video, and yeah, you'll get all of the details about this amazing program on there. And there's so many different technical sparring rounds that you can do, and if you've got a good coach, he will be telling you this. Like for example, one round, one guy can just be working on counter punches, the other guy can just be working on straight punches. Another round, you can just be working on lead hands only. Or then you can do like the 3-to-3 drill, where one person is throwing 3 shots, the other person is throwing 3 shots, and you take turns at throwing 3 shots each. This is something that I would do training for the Olympic Games. But with the punches, the speed can be 90 to 100%, but the power, we're pulling that back to around 50 to 60%. The point is, when you put those gloves on and you have an understanding with your training partner that you're not going to have a war, instead you're on the same page with what you're about to do. Now, the second thing, and this is a big one that I see all the time with beginners, they will get in the ring and they're thinking, all I have to do is hit this guy. But what happens when that's all you're thinking about? Well, you completely forget about your defense and end up getting punched all over. And then you're like, oh no, sparring is dangerous. I'm not good at sparring. I don't want to spar again because every time I'm in there, I'm getting punched all over. But the reality is, it's you. All you are looking for is landing them punches. Now, I know people say the name of the game is to hit and not be hit. But what it should be is the name of the game is not to be hit and then hit. Because think about it, you could have the best offense ever, but if your defense is terrible, you're going to get punched everywhere. But if you've got an unbelievable defense, it's then when you can start working on your offense to come back with them counter punches. Learning how to be hard to hit, which I talk about on the Sparring Academy program, will really help build your confidence in your counter punches and everything else. And you can be the best puncher in the world, but if you can't defend the punch, you're going to get knocked out, mate. And when you're doing these things, this is going to help make your sparring even more enjoyable. Now, when I used to spar, especially when I was young, I would get punched in the nose and my eyes would start watering, even after I had over 100 fights. And that felt embarrassing, but I understood that it was a normal thing. Or sometimes my nose would start bleeding and would be dripping. And I would be wiping it with my glove like this. I remember one of the first times I was sparring when I was young and I got punched in the nose and I was thinking, oh, my nose is bleeding. So I wiped it on my glove and I looked at my glove like that. My coach Bobby stopped the spar straight. He went, Tony, what are you doing? I was like, what? He went, what are you looking at your glove for? I went, oh, my nose is bleeding. I was looking at the blood. He went, why? I was like, to see if it was bleeding. He went, why? I was like, I don't know. He said, never take your eyes off your opponent ever again. Ever again. Keep your eyes on your opponent. Even if you think your nose is bleeding, keep your eyes on your opponent. From that day on, if I ever wiped my nose, I would never look to see if it was bleeding or not. Now, the next time you spar, I want you to think about these two things. The first thing is breathing when you're in the ring. So important for us to continue to breathe. If we hold our breath, we're going to get exhausted fast. The second thing that I want you to think about is one thing in your boxing game that you can work on. It might be making sure when you throw that jab, it comes back to your face. It might be making sure that you never get caught from the jab that the guy's going to throw. And if he does throw that jab, you can hit him with a counter punch. And when you're constantly working on this one thing, there's way more chance that you're going to have success with that and be better. Now, I'm going to show you 3 drills that will really help improve you. But before I do, I want to make you briefly understand why these drills are so crucial. Now, imagine you're going to hold a public speech in front of hundreds or thousands of people, but you've never read a speech in your life. And you've got 5 minutes before you're going to go in there. What's going to happen? Well, obviously you're going to be nervous, right? You get jittery, you'll be scared, you might lack of confidence because you've never done it before. Now, if you don't like sparring, if you're afraid of it, there's a good chance it's because you don't feel confident in yourself yet. It may be because you feel as if you're not ready or you're not as good as these other people. And this is why I always had the mindset of training like really hard. When you train hard and prepare properly, your sparring sessions feel better, especially when you're doing the tips that I've given you on this video about the breathing and the other things, because you're going to go in there with more confidence that you're fitter and stronger. Now, there are 3 specific drills that you can practice that will build your confidence for sparring. The first drill is called close range punching conditioning. Now, to do this, you've got to be on the same page as your partner. So what this is, your partner will stand in front of you, he'll throw punches directly at your face, a couple of inches from your face, but they won't actually land. Now, what this does, it conditions your brain to see punches coming at you, to keep your eyes wide open without flinching or closing them or even turning away. Now, of course, this is going to feel scary at first, but that's the whole point. I want you to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Now, the second drill is a combination blocking drill. So you get your training partner to throw a specific combination at you beforehand, like for example, a 1-2 hook the head, and he'll do this slow. You're going to be working on blocking them, and then you'll come up with your punches of your own, and then from there you can speed it up. On the Sparring Academy, I've got tons of different drills and combinations that you can do for this to help you with your different combinations and punches and defenses. And when you get this down with a good training partner, you can actually go full speed working on defenses and offense as well. It's great. And again, something that I would do training for the Olympics when I'm training with my training partners, building that muscle memory. And what this does, it helps build confidence. It also helps you get to the point of being able to do these combinations and defenses without even having to think about them. Now, the last one of these drills, I already mentioned. It's called the 3 of 3, where you'll throw 3 punches and then your partner will throw 3 punches. Any punch at all, you can start slow, then you can build up the speed. It's basically a mini technical sparring session, but it's safe, controlled, and it's also fun. And if you're sparring and you're having fun, guess what? You're going to spar more. And the more sparring that you do, guess what? The better you're going to get. And I'll talk all about this on the Sparring Academy. Again, link is below. Now, I've been boxing for over 30 years, at 106 fights. And I've seen more than 1,000 fights right in front of my eyes. I've been there ringside for them. And there's 4 actual common mistakes that most boxers are making that you can fix instantly once you know what they are. Now, to find out what they are, I've created a full video here where you can click and learn all about them. So click here and watch this video next.